I've done it three times already here. 3 years, the first 3 years. I sat on the committee that wrote that 2970 standard that everybody's been talking about. And I know many of you haven't seen it, didn't even know it exists. I hope, how many of you have not seen it, actually seen the 2970? Well, I kind of figured that. So I have a copy here. One's 2970-13, one's 2970-15. They're relatively the same. One is a little more updated and we made some changes in it with warnings in the back. And this was the original standard. By the way, I also got an award from ASTM for my work on this. Yet the opposing counsel was arguing I did nothing for ASTM. Fascinating how you can lie to the court. And, you know, even after doing this for 42 years, I'm still pissed. My wife can't believe it. She can't believe the stuff I put up with people who blatantly lie. That's why people don't like attorneys. I've dealt with 5 law firms since I've been here already. Give you another example. So if you haven't seen it, I need these back. But if you want to take a look at it, just get a flavor of the standard, you can certainly look at it. Let me explain something else too. I have no vested interest in your industry. I do not own a park. I have no investments in parks. I work for no park or company. I'm not on any retainers. I'm just a bald-headed little guy from Colorado that gives a shit. Is the easiest way to remember who I am. And also happens to have a background to give that shit. Excuse my French. But that's who I am. I care about the consumer. I also care equally about everyone in this room making a good living, running a really good program, doing it right, making a profit, and giving lots of people employment in the industry and making the patron have a good time at where they are. I will also tell you, too, that I have been retained on 50 cases dealing with trampoline parks. 27 of them by defense attorneys, 23 by plaintiff attorneys. So I just don't work for one side or the other. That is not how I work. That's not how I take the cases. I've consulted now over 500 litigations in every state in the union, including federal court. I've been doing this a long time. And I try to bring my expertise every year to you guys. And the topic of this presentation is the anatomy of a lawsuit. Because I want you to understand what it is the attorneys are going to ask you. Let me assume, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but I would assume most of you in here have some kind of business relationship to the trampoline industry, correct? Either you're a manufacturer, you're a producer of a product, you're an owner-operator, you're an investor, you're a park manager, one of those, correct? Is that right? Okay. So all of you in this room would be a defendant in a lawsuit. In other words, somebody would get hurt at your facility, they would hire an attorney, the attorney would file a lawsuit, that's called the plaintiff. Okay, I assume most of you understand that, but let me just make it real simple. Okay. In order to have that lawsuit, and you've heard all the stuff about the standards, you've even heard, some of you might have heard some of my comments during the sessions on some issues that came up. I'm not even going to get into that. If you look at the handout that you have, and I know some of you don't have it, and I do apologize for that, but if you can kind of share it. The first part, the first couple of pages is just to give you, instead of typing up a heading page, I just gave it to you. But if you look at the next page, you'll see a letter on my letterhead. And you'll see that it's been redacted because I don't talk about cases when I present anything. So I didacted it or redacted it. But this letter was at the request of a plaintiff law firm that said, Dr. Rabinoff, we're going to depose the owner you guys, right in here, of a trampoline park. And we want you to give us a roadmap of what you think we should ask this person in a deposition about how they operated their trampoline park. Now, in order for me to do that, I had to here, hold on.
Thank you.
Okay, in order for me to do that, and we're going to go through it, I had to understand a couple of things. One, you have to understand the elements of a lawsuit. So you got to understand, what is the plaintiff going to be really asking the court? Well, the first thing they're going to look at is called duty. And duty is a legal term. Do you have a duty to the plaintiff who got hurt? Let's say you have a guy, I'll give you an example. Guy tried to flip on a trampoline, landed on his head, broke his neck. He's suing the entity. Now, you would think up front, how can he possibly sue the entity? He did the flip, nobody pushed him, it wasn't a collision, it wasn't a double bounce, it wasn't any of the stuff you guys talked about for 2 days. He was on the trampoline, did a flip, broke his neck. You'd think, well, I'm out of here. Not so. Because it could be the trampoline wasn't maintained, it could be the springs weren't maintained. By the way, if you have a trampoline and you're missing 2 springs on the trampoline, does that affect the bounce of the trampoline? Absolutely it does. And as a matter of fact, the 2 missing springs might be right where this guy jumped. And if you jump when there's no springs, you go deep into a polypropylene bed, you can't get back up. If you don't get back up, you stall on the top, which is exactly what this guy did. Fell on his head and broke his neck. Now, you still might say, well, it's still his fault. Well, maybe, maybe not. So the first part of the lawsuit is, does that trampoline court, do you people in here, right here, do you have a duty to your patrons to run a safe facility? Yes or no?
Yeah.
All right, so you just answered that. That's the first prong of a lawsuit. The second question the plaintiff attorney is going to ask is, was there a breach of that duty? Now, this is the liability part. This is where the expert comes in. Most attorneys don't have a clue as to your industry. They're plaintiff attorneys. They'll talk to somebody who was injured at a trampoline park, and an hour later they'll talk to somebody who's interested in a car collision on the highway, or a boiler blew up. A plaintiff attorney handles all kinds of people who are injured. That's what they do. That's what it is. It's called personal injury lawsuits. People get hurt. People go through attorneys. Now, the breach here is the liability part, and that's what the expert does. That's what somebody like me does. I have to review the information, give that attorney my best estimate, and then that attorney can decide whether or not there was a breach of that duty. Give you an example. On my phone here, if you want to see it at the end, I'll show it to you. I got an email from an attorney Tuesday when I got here. It's on my phone. And the attorney said, Dr. Ravaloff, I have a case, and I don't know this guy from a hole in the wall. He said, can you tell me, would it be okay if I sent you a photo of the trampoline that my client was on, and can you tell me if there's anything either wrong with that trampoline, or can you tell me anything about that kind of trampoline? So, of course, I said, sure, send me the photo. I looked at the photo, called the attorney back up, and I said, well, that's interesting. That trampoline is specifically prohibited from use in a trampoline park. There was a dead silence. He said, what? I said, it's specifically in 2970 prohibited for use as general use in a trampoline park. Any of you know what that is? What? Performance trampoline bed. It's a Euro trampoline, or known as an Aussie bed. It's specifically, matter of fact, hold on, I'll show you something. Show you how simple it is. Where's my 2970? Here you go. We'll take the latest one, 2970-15, right? This is the standard that we've all been talking about. find it here. It is in here. Let's see. Where is this there? This practice does not apply to consumer trampolines, trampolines intended for use of water, trampolines intended for use as aquatic equipment, trampolines primarily used for professional exhibits, or single-user trampoline under the supervisor of a coach or not. And then it says, well, it has it here. I won't take the time, but it specifically is prohibited. It's in the standard. Now, you can find it if you like. Tell me where it is.
That's in the 15th or the 13th?
Both, either one. It's in both. We didn't change it. So, I said to the attorney, so the attorney says to me, he says, wow, here's an attorney who knew instinctively that this trampoline and the height and the way it was explained to him that he got hurt was just a little beyond what he thought an amusement park ride would do. That's why he was thinking about it. And what he did was the right thing to do is to call somebody who's in gymnastics, who's in trampolining, and say, what do you think? I mean, I could have easily said, no, that's perfectly okay, no problem, yeah, it's a good trampoline, sorry your client got hurt. Client. Instead, he said, how much do you charge? And there's a check waiting for me at home. He not only didn't know there was a standard, he had no idea there was a standard in the industry. He had no idea it was prohibited. Now, you got to ask yourself, well, why was it prohibited? We can get into that later, but that's another lecture. But you can probably figure out, the average person jumping on a trampoline, when you jump on a backyard trampoline, which is a polypropylene bed, usually round, usually 15 feet, anywhere between 88 and 92 springs on it. You all jump on those in the back. They're made to just jump in the backyard. Do you know what the number one warning on a backyard trampoline is? No flips. It's been there since 1974. Do people do flips on backyard trampolines? Sure they do. They violate the warning all day long. But the industry has said, and I was part of that industry 20 years before this industry started, you're not supposed to do flips on a backyard trampoline. And you know the reason why too? Not only because you're not trained. The trampoline isn't made to do that. It's a polypropylene bed with 88 springs. It can only bounce so much. Now, can you do a flip on a backyard trampoline? Sure. Can a good trampolinist do a double flip on a backyard trampoline? Yeah, they can. Can the average person do it? No. And even if they get lucky getting around, they're going to break their neck. So, was there a breach of duty in the same scenario, in this scenario? Well, the attorney's looking at it and saying, no, there may be a breach of duty at that health club. That trampoline center. There may be a breach of duty. The third one is proximate cause. And what that means is, did the person at your facility actually get injured on your trampoline? Now, are there people that lie all the time? Yeah. So somebody could get hurt at say they got hurt at your trampoline park, leave for 3 months, and then file a complaint and say, yeah, on April 5th, and this is, December, I got hurt at the trampoline park and blew out my knee. Okay, now they have to prove that. That's proximate cause. That's why you have video. That's why you have a bunch of other things, which we'll get into as well. So the attorney also has to be darn sure that Freddie got hurt on that product on that day and it resulted in these injuries. And by the way, this is only the first meeting that the person has with the law firm. And the last part is damages. What are the damages? Did you break your knee? Most of stuff in the fitness field, in my field, most damages are physical damages. It makes it easier for us. You break an arm, you got a bone sticking out, you break a leg, you break your neck, your quad, you lose an eye. Those are the kind of damages you want to look at. But you also have emotional damages. And you see that with little kids who get hurt. And I did a case one time against the daycare center where they had a 5-year-old who fell off a piece of equipment, landed in the sand, landed in a way that she almost died because her head was caught in the sand and she almost suffocated. God was with her that day, and somebody got her really quick, revived her, and she made it out okay. But she testified she doesn't even want to go to the beach anymore. Now you may think, come on, give me a break. But she's afraid of sand. She's afraid of being suffocated. She's afraid of being alone. So those are other damages that you would see. These are the 4 elements of a lawsuit, folks. Any lawsuit that's filed against you, the attorney has to realize, can he or she prove all 4? You got to prove all 4. Now, it's interesting. I'm doing a case right now, this case I was telling you about in Detroit, where they're arguing in a motion for summary judgment to throw it out because 2970-13 and 2970-15 didn't exist at the time of the injury. It was a 2012 injury. So they're arguing that the standards I talked about in my deposition up there don't exist. Now, the court may buy that. So, if you look at 2970 and you look at 2913 again, where are those? Somewhere up here? Right here. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't matter. If you look at the standard again, in the standard, you'll see reference documents down here. If you flip over the page, you'll see about 20 of them, 50 or 30 of them, straight down here. These are documents that we used that already existed before 2013, that we incorporated into 2970. And the most important document that we incorporated was 770. 770 is the standard that's been around for about 20 years that sets out what it is that amusement parks need to do, from patrons to the owner-operator. Okay? So, if somebody says, well, you know, there was no standard before 2013, that's incorrect. There was a standard, and we used it. We just made it specific to trampolines and to foam pits. That's why you need to have that standard. But you also need to understand the earlier standards as well. Now, if you flip through the pages, you'll see an article that's attached. The article is an article that is the research. We'll go to that here in a second, because I only have 55 minutes, so I've got to make sure you understand what the handout is. If you look at the article, it's entitled, it's from the Journal of Forensic Biomechanics, which, by the way, is an international journal, well-renowned journal. Probably took us a year and a half to get this accepted into the journal, peer-reviewed research. And the title is, A Biomechanical Method for Reconstruction of Tumbling Trampoline Associated Cervical Spine Injuries Using Human and Anthropometric Test Dummy Data. And if you see, I'm listed as the second author. Jeff Desmelin is a biomechanics guy. He and I conducted this research for a case where a guy broke his neck doing a flip on a tumble track. Are you familiar with what a tumble track is? Some of you might have seen it. A tumble track is a learning tool trampoline. It's about 5 feet wide, about 24 inches high, about 30 feet long. And it has a polypropylene bed, it has frame, and it has springs attached to it. But it's not a trampoline where you jump up and down. It's a trampoline where you tumble. Like if I was going to do a round-up flip-flop back down here, I would do it on the tumble track. The purpose of the tumble track is to have a trained athlete warm up so they don't destroy their back. And it gives you a lot of lift, and you can learn skills on it. So at Cornell, a guy went out, was on the tumble track, did a flip, broke his neck. Now, there's a lot of other issues with that as well. I testified for 2 days in federal court in Philadelphia on this case. And Cornell's argument was, which is, by the way, an argument you could make. You could say, look, I had thousands and thousands and thousands of jumpers at my facility over the last 5 years, maybe millions. And I have one guy broke his neck, landed on a trampoline, flipped, broke his neck, he's a quad. So the argument would be, well, geez, I've had lots of other people land on their necks. Lots of other people landed on their heads and didn't break their necks. So this must be an anomaly. That's what Cornell's argument was. That it's so rare that if you land on your head on a trampoline, that you will sustain a C5, C6 subluxation so bad that you will be paralyzed for the rest of your life. That was their argument. We said, bullshit. And so the court said, prove it. We did. And when you read the study, and you don't have to read it now. You read it on the plane, read it when you're sitting in a pool somewhere having a cup of coffee. If you read it, the whole study is in the abstract right here. And here's what we did. We took 5 or 6 people and put them on a trampoline in a rigging, and I spotted every single one of them with a rig, an overhead rig, because I know how to do that. And I had them all do backflips. 4 of the 5 were basic beginners. One of them was my son, who's not a gymnast. And we put him in a black suit, and we put white markers on him at all of his angles, and we filmed it with a high-speed camera. We took that data of all 5 of them, because when I spotted them, as they were doing the flip, if I didn't pull the rope, I'd have 5 quads. I'm sorry, 4 quads. One actually did it right, because we had one, because that's the way we did the study. We took all of that data, put it into a computer, set up a program, and then we built a rigging over the trampolines. And we put a level 3 crash dummy into the rigging. And we dropped him on the trampoline 46 times, doing a flip. How many times do you think he broke his neck? None? The study was between 49 to 99% chance of breaking your neck. So you got a 1 out of 2 to a 1 out of 1 that you're going to break your neck landing that way on a trampoline. That's how easy it is, by the way, to break your neck. And by the way, we made the dummy, we put the weight of the dummy the same weight as the person at Cornell. We did the exact same skill. We wanted to see how many times could we break his neck. Cornell's saying it would have been none. It would have been maybe 1 out of 50. Not true. And the conclusion was, here's the conclusion, and this is why it's so important for you guys. And by the way, I've sent this to IAP. I sent it to USA Gymnastics. They know the study. You won't find it anywhere because they don't want to relate to it. Too damn bad. I know how easy it is to break a neck on a trampoline. You guys as owners got to also understand that. And then you decide how you want to run your parks. Here was the conclusion. It's right here. Failed backward somersaults causing DFD are also likely to cause neurological damage. Therefore, use of rebound devices requires the need for progressive skill achievement, supervision for beginners, and the use of additional safety measures must be emphasized to prevent inverted falls, resulting in specific combination of forces necessary to cause BFD. We proved it. It's not an anomaly, folks. You have it in front of you now. I don't know where I took this from. Now, having said that, let's see what happens in the lawsuit then. If attorneys have that information, which they do, by the way, I submitted it to the attorneys in the court up in the Detroit case. If in fact they have that information, and that's science, then you court owners have to realize that it is difficult. It is easy to break your neck. Not difficult. It's not an anomaly. How many of you allow flips, front back flips in your facilities? Just about everyone, right? There are some that don't allow flips anymore. There are some parks that are not allowing this jumping. When we first started putting together this standard back in 2010, the issue came up, should the industry allow flips? They were already allowing flips, by the way. From 2005 to 2010, facilities were allowing flips. The sad part is they were allowing any multiple flips. They were allowing doubles and triples. Not only into the pit, but on trampolines. And that's one of the reasons that spawned the 2970 and us all working together saying, whoa, wait a minute. This is an amusement park ride, folks. This is for general use. Now I know I sat through seminars today, just like you did, and yesterday. I sat on a bunch of them. And I was amazed at the last one over here on gamifying all this stuff, which is way beyond anything that was envisioned by our committee in 2010. When we started this, these were trampoline parks. You come out, you jump on a trampoline. You jump into a pit. If you want, you go have a burrito, and then you can play a football game. That's a trampoline park. That park is long gone. And that's why that session was so well packed. Because you're all looking for a way to keep people coming back, to keep them excited, to give them their money's worth, to do what you want to do. And I'm all for that. I'm all for innovating and moving an industry forward. What I'm not for is having the general population come in on a product that is extremely dangerous. Now, interestingly, one of the issues I'm seeing now is the use of airbags. Some of you probably have airbags in your facilities. That you pulled out your foam pits, you put in an airbag. Did you ask the airbag company if they had done any R&D, research and development, for an airbag in a trampoline park? Did any of you ask that before you put it? How many of you have airbags in your park? Okay. Did you ask them that? Probably not. You assume that it's a good idea to put an airbag to replace a foam pit. They probably told you that it was safer. They probably told you it's easier to maintain than the foam. They probably told you that you don't even have to maintain it. Just flip the switch on in the morning, it goes, whoop, and you're done. They probably even told you you don't even have to test how much air is in the bag. Just leave the button right here on this little machine. You know how I know that? Because I've read the testimony. Because that's what they do. However, what also is interesting is, do you know how you test the air in the airbag? One company. Do you know how they test it? See if it's okay so people can jump in the airbag? Anybody know?
Like jump on it and see if they're on the floor.
Yeah! You're 100% right! You know what they do? You know what I call it, the yo mama? Here's what. This is what they actually said in the deposition. They recommend that you take one of your 16-year-old, 17-year-old guys, put him in the tower, let him jump in, and he goes, yo! Then you're okay. That's how one company tells you, the owner, to test their airbag before you let a 280-pound woman jump off a 10-foot tower into the airbag. Which is another case I'm doing. That's what they tell you. Then they would ask the question, well, don't you have an air gauge? Don't you have some kind of gauge where you can see what kind of air is in between those pillars and how that works? The answer was, yeah, we used to do that. We used to even give them airbag. We used to even give them the gauge. We found out the kids out there that were doing it didn't know how to read the gauge and do the gauge, so we don't do that anymore. So we just tell them to jump on it, and if they're okay, then let the next overweight man do it with a bad back. Do you think it takes any skill to jump from a 10-foot tower into an airbag? Does it take skill to do that? Yeah, actually it does. Why? What kind of skill do you need? Absolutely! You have to know how to land. How are you supposed to land in an airbag, by the way?
On your bottom.
Laid out. So if you have somebody who's scared, goes up there looking down, who's overweight, unskilled, has never jumped from a tower, never jumped into an airbag, is there a chance they may jump straight-legged into that airbag? You know what happens if you jump straight-legged in an airbag? Blow out both legs. Literally every bone in both legs. That's the case I'm doing right now. By the way, let me tell you another thing. Do you know what one airbag company tells you is a reasonable height if you wanted to do this? No, you don't know. I know. I'm asking a question. I know the answer. 19 feet. They're saying you can put a heavy-set woman, heavy-set man, with a bad back, because you don't know, right? You don't know the physical condition of people that walk into your family center. You have no clue. You take their $8, you put a band on the thing and say, go have fun. This is family fun. You see that airbag there when you go, that's pretty cool. You let them climb up the thing 19 feet in the air and jump down. That, to me, I get nervous thinking about it. How stupid can you be? So then you would argue, well, that woman or that guy jumping off there, they were pretty stupid. They should not have done it. Well, who let them do it? Who had a duty to stop them? Who had a duty to teach them? And by the way, this industry doesn't teach anybody anything. You are not gymnastics schools. You're an amusement park ride and device. You're the same as Disneyland. When people go to Disneyland, do the Disney employees teach them anything? No, you get on a ride. Now, unless the ride breaks, that's a whole different issue. Nothing should happen to you. Same thing in a trampoline park, folks. You go to a trampoline park, you should have fun for the hour or two and then go home. And can't wait till you come back again to have some more fun. And it should be safe. Now, can injuries happen on anything? Of course they can. That's why I do half of my cases in defense work. I see, matter of fact, I'm doing 2 cases now where I watched the video. In 2 cases, very sad, both backflips on a trampoline, both resulted in quadriplegia. When I looked at the video over and over again, and looked at the whole thing, where the monitor was, looked at the equipment, looked at what the person did, looked at the whole thing, I told the plaintiff attorney, I'm really sorry, I can't help you. The entity did nothing wrong. He did a flip, he missed it, he landed on his head. I'm sorry, I can't help you. And the attorney who called me knows me really well. He said, I thought you would tell me that. He's not going to take the case. And that's a $20 million lawsuit. He's gone. Now, maybe he'll find another attorney. I don't know. But I can't help him. However, I can look at another video like the one in Detroit and say, whoa, there's no reason he should have missed that flip. But I see the reason why. So, in this particular case, I think I had, maybe did I hand out every one? I'm going to have to borrow one. I don't even have one. All right. So, here's what happens in a lawsuit. Once this happens and the attorney decides to take the case for the plaintiff, okay, the attorney will file what's known as a complaint with the court. And in the complaint, they will list all of the things they're complaining about that caused Johnny to get hurt. Usually what they will do is they will do what I call the big 3. Every single lawsuit filed against you guys will have these. Supervision or lack of. That's huge. That gets into monitor issues. That gets into watching who's there. I would say out of the 50 cases I'm doing right now, all 50 list lack of supervision as an issue. And under that, you get things like, how did you train your monitor? Now you heard Bob, some of you heard Bobby, and Susie talk about it if you were in that session or whatever, and they put together this manual to train the monitors, which I think is a great idea. And I'm not getting into that in this session because I'll never finish. So I'm just going to give you the global stuff. So you got lack of supervision. Okay? Then you have equipment. / operations. Now what this is did the equipment fail? Did you maintain it right? In the Detroit case, I argued, and I argued in my deposition, and I argued in my report, that there was so much evidence that they had broken springs all the time, that they never maintained it right. As a matter of fact, when I went there 2.5 years later to look at the facility, I went under the trampolines, I found 45 broken springs under the trampolines. Not only did I find, and by the way, they even testified it was only like 2 or 3 days ago that they cleaned them. So it wasn't like they were sitting there for 6 months worth of springs. When I looked at each spring, guess what I found? Every spring broke the same way. You got your spring, right? Okay, and I was wondering how, when I read one document that was there that said basically about a month after the accident happened that they had all these springs problems, all these broken springs problems. I thought, it's kind of interesting. Then when I looked at these springs, every single spring was broken the same way. One end of the spring, that's like this, was stretched. The other end was severed right off. One end stretched out, the other end broke, just severed. And I even found the other piece of the spring. I took photos of all of this and measurements of all of this. They were all the same. What would that tell you as an owner? Does that tell you anything? What? What would it tell you? You're owners.
Design problem.
It's a design problem. Defect. Or what else? What's even simpler than that? Lack of maintenance. Do springs break? Sure they do. Do you replace springs on a regular basis? Sure you do. Do trampolines rip and break? Sure you do. But do you wait until it's so bad that you have 3, 4, 5 springs off a trampoline that you should have replaced months ago? No. Why do that? Why do that? And the third one is warnings. Did you write your warnings right? Are they out there? Did you attempt to educate the patron about the inherent risks in jumping in a trampoline park? And by the way, warnings are only good, just like waivers, if the patron knows, understands, and accepts those inherent risks. Those are the 3 terms that have to come in every single time.
Can you say that again?
You have to know, understand, and accept the risks. That's what the warning says. And the patron has to do all 3, not just read it. They've got to understand it, and then they've got to accept it when they sign it. That's in warnings. Now, if you take that information and you look at this document here, what I did in this document is I was asked to come up with the 10 most prevalent claims, most prevalent issues that I think this particular owner should be asked under oath in a deposition, based upon all the evidence that I had read. And I read thousands of pages of documents. I read depositions from other people. I went out there, I looked at the facility. I had the whole thing laid out. And this is what I did. This is an actual letter I wrote to that law firm on April 19, 2017, prior to a deposition. And if you notice, let me tell you the topics first, because you can see I have like 3 minutes left. If you look at point 1, general operations, policies, and procedures. Every single one of you in this room is going to be asked a question about that. Every single one of you. If you flip over the page, you look at number 2, monitoring, training, and responsibilities.
You're going to be asked that question. And if you don't have anything down in writing, if you didn't train your staff, even a tenth, like Susie said, or the monitoring one from a House of Air session, if you went to that one. And we'll get into this. We'll get into all the questions. That's why I gave them to you, because I knew I'd never have time. Then, facility maintenance and equipment. See, that's one of the three. Supervision already is one of the monitors. Then, emails on facility issues and problems. Emails never go away, and they're all discoverable, by the way. If you write an email to your staff saying, hey, we're breaking too many springs here, tell me how you want to work this so we could fix it. And then you have a whole string of emails saying, hey, there's too many broken springs here. Tell me what to do. And there's no response back saying, hey, man, we need to change the manufacturer. Yeah, the springs aren't working. They're defective. Yeah, man, they're the wrong size. I read through hundreds of emails. And you know what? There wasn't one solution. How can that be? There's no solution. You know what they did for a solution? They just keep putting more springs up. And then they just keep breaking even more. And sometimes they didn't even maintain it. They didn't even change them. Then you look, how did he handle before and after he broke his neck on the trampoline? That's where you get the video. What was this guy doing leading up to the time that he went on this particular trampoline, did a flip, missed it, broke his neck? And after he broke his neck, what did you do after that? How did you get him out of there? Did you move him? What did you do? How long did it take the EMTs to get there? Then the next question is trampoline park design and engineering of the structural aspects of the park. I wanted to know from this owner, who built it? How did they build it? What did they do? Who did you get the springs from? Who did you get the trampoline from? How did you pick them? Where are their designs? How did you do this? Inspection of the trampoline park. Did the monitors do their jobs? When did you inspect the park? In depositions of the monitors, they would say, well, yeah, we inspect them every day. That's a 17-year-old. Next question is, well, how'd you do that, Johnny? I went out and I looked at everything. Okay. How did you inspect the airbag? To your mama. I jumped in it. How much skill do you know about an airbag? Oh, nothing. How do you know the airbag was blown up enough? Had enough air pressure? I landed it. Well, how did you know? I didn't get hurt. There you go. Procedures for emergency issues in the park. How did they handle it? And then who designed the park? And what were their backgrounds to do that? And then if you look at all the sub-questions, I will guarantee every single one of you in this room that in a litigation, a good plaintiff attorney will ask you every single one of these questions. Every single one. I guarantee it. Now you've got to ask yourself a question then. Do you have the answers to those? Do you have answers that you think a jury is going to buy? That you are doing a good job? When you say, gee, I'll tell you, by the way, some of the answers, because I sat through the deposition of that owner. I actually sat there and listened to him. 4.5 hours. I sat there and had him answer through the attorney. I don't say anything. I'm not allowed to say anything in deposition. I'm not an attorney. I'm just a consultant. I sat there and listened to the guy answer every one of those questions. If I handed every one of you his deposition right now, every single one of you would have tears in your eyes and be super pissed off. He was asked about warnings. He said, asked him about the warnings. Well, who designed the warnings for you? He says, I don't know. Well, it's your park. Yeah. Well, do you know what the warnings even said? He says, no, I have no idea. I don't remember. I sold the park. So you don't remember anything about the warning? No. Who designed the park? Well, he knew the company that designed the parks. How did you check them out? I did. And this went on and on and on Interesting in this case, because the standard came out after this particular injury, believe it or not, the judge in this case may rule the standard is not applicable. So all of the violations, when I was deposed 4 hours after his deposition, I gave all the violations in those standards. I used 2313. And the attorney asked me, who was deposing me, representing him, well, what violations are you talking about? I started listing them. You wanted to shut me up. I didn't. Shut up. See, you probably realize I don't shut up easy. I kept going. I said, you're interrupting me. I didn't finish my answer, sir. Okay, go ahead and continue. I went on for 2 hours. Very stupid question. Very stupid lawyering when you ask an expert an open-ended question. Very, very stupid. And when you ask an expert that really knows his shit, really very stupid. And I got the answers to everything that's in here. And even though he is extremely negligent, even though I believe in my heart and my soul that because of that and all the other things that led up to the testimony and all the documents that this guy shouldn't even have been allowed on that trampoline. You want to tell you why? They have 3 sections. How many of you have sections in your trampoline centers for different ages or heights? Do you divide stuff up? Okay. You probably have an adult area or main court, and then you probably have a kiddie court over here or something, right? And then you have a dodgeball court over here, and you might have a foam pit or something over here. Are the sizes of the trampolines for your kiddie park, okay, are they a different size than your adult main court size trampolines in most of the cases? Yeah. Why are they smaller? Why did you do that?
To avoid double bouncing.
Because what? The weight of the child, okay.
Avoid double bouncing.
Avoid double bouncing, okay.
Smaller people jumping on.
Small people what?
Jumping on.
Okay, so but what I'm saying is, did you do it because you wanted to save money and a smaller trampoline is smaller size? I mean, is it cheaper to buy a 5x5 trampoline than it is to buy an 8x10? Yeah, there's a price difference. Do you save money if you're talking about 30 or 40 trampolines? That's what this guy said in his deposition. He just wanted to save money. He was honest. That was his answer. Now, what happened is, this is a 31-year-old man, 210 pounds, a little overweight. You see him on the video. Comes in with his family. And he goes to an area that has a sign up that says, no one over 14 allowed on these trampolines. So they had an age limitation on that set of trampolines that he was on. What should a monitor have done seeing a 38-year-old guy, 31-year-old guy on a trampoline who's overweight? Not let him on. If the monitor was there doing his job, we wouldn't have a lawsuit. He wouldn't be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Because he would have been told, sir, you cannot go on these trampolines. You have to go on these trampolines. So please leave this area. Did that happen? No. There wasn't even a monitor. That's another issue. Then you see a monitor come up. When he goes on the trampoline, you see the monitor walk right by him. He tries to flip. He does the first flip. He makes it around. Do you know why he made it around? Because when you look at the video, he jumped in the middle of the trampoline. He had a little bit better height, and he muscled it, what I call muscling it around. Did he do it mechanically correct? Absolutely not. By the way, I will argue that 99% of the people at your parks do back flips, not mechanically correct. Do they get around? Yeah. They bounce, they manage to throw their bodies back, and the rest of the body follows, and they get lucky. Did they do it correct? No. Did they make it? Yeah. Then he did a second one. This time you watch him move closer to the edge. If you jump off a trampoline closer to the springs, is that a different bounce?
Oh yeah.
Than in the center? Why? Why is it different?
You're not getting the depth and the.
Right. Are you getting all 88 springs or 100 springs at the same time? No. You're only getting a few. That affects your takeoff in the air. Because, you know, folks, when you're in the air, you can't do anything. You know, there's nothing to push off. You're kind of in the air. It's Newton's law. You have no momentum, no inertia, and you're going to drop like a rock at 32 feet per second squared. Boom, every time. And if you haze that bed first, you're done. You are done. Finished. And I proved it with my colleagues. You're done. You're finished. Now, when you look at the questions, and again, we're technically almost done here. But if you want to stay, we'll continue, and we can. If one of you has a laptop and wants to set it up over here, we can try showing you some broken necks that'll knock your socks off. I'd be more than happy to do it if anybody wants to do that. The most important thing in this session was this concept of the anatomy of a lawsuit. The expert will be consulting to the law firm. And by the way, your side's going to have an expert too, because I do defense work too. If I can help them, I will. And what do you think I'm going to ask? I'm going to ask the client, you, the exact same questions. Doesn't matter to me. It goes both ways. That's why I gave you this. Take this and go back home and ask all your staff and ask the owner-operators of all your facilities, how would you answer these questions? And could you convince a jury that you did everything humanly possible to prevent the injury that the plaintiff is claiming happened at your facility? If you can do that, you will win at trial. The jury will come back and say, I'm really sorry he got hurt. I'm really sorry he's in a wheelchair. But you know what? This trampoline park did everything they could do under the sun to not have him do that. They kept him off. They did this. They had the monitor there. They did everything you could think of. They had the best designs. They had the best equipment. Everything. And he still got hurt. I will tell you this, every single one of you in this room, this is my prediction, that if you stay in this business longer than 2 years, every single one of you will have a quad, at least one quad at your facility within the next 2 years. I will tell you that. And that person will sue you and get a good law firm. And they will spend upwards of $250,000 suing you. This study that we did cost the law firm $300,000. They funded it. I can't fund a study like that. That's why it's never been done before. And we proved at trial that it's not an anomaly. And by the way, the other side, Cornell University, think about it. Cornell University did not argue the results of our study or our design. They did not try to replicate it. That's huge. That's huge. And that's why the study still stands. By the way, it's interesting. The other side in this Detroit case listed all of these scientific studies about breaking your neck on a trampoline. Somehow or other, guess which one they forgot to put in? Mine. They never told the court about my study. We're going to tell the court about my study. They left it out. I don't know why. It's a journal of forensic biomechanics. I don't know how they could have left out my study. I'm just mind-boggled on that one. Once this stuff is done, then you guys are going to be deposed. Any of you ever been deposed? 1 or 2 people. A deposition is testimony before trial under oath. You will be brought in, and under oath, with a court reporter. Your attorney will be there, the other attorney will be there, maybe the client will be there, maybe the expert will be there. You're going to be asked all of these questions. And it may go on, by the way, a subpoena under a deposition clearly says the deposition will continue until finished. You can be in a deposition for 20 minutes. You can be in a deposition for 20 hours. keep going. And you will be asked all these questions. And then after the deposition is over, you will get a chance to read your testimony. About a month later, you'll get a copy of it with an errata sheet and a signature page. Take the time to read it very, very carefully. Because under the pressure of a deposition, especially if you've never done one, I've done about 200 of them now. I can do them in my sleep. I even know what the attorney's going to ask me before they ask me the question. But most of the time they don't like my answers. Because that's the point of the deposition, you know. So, read it very carefully because you might have made a mistake and said something that you regret. The best time to correct it is early on, right when you get that errata sheet, and you put in there on page 837, line 26, I said up instead of it should have been down. Because if you don't correct it and it goes to trial, believe me, the other side knows what you said, and they already have an expert. And that expert is saying, whoa, if Rabinow said up, he's not a biomechanical guy because it's got to be down. And so at trial, they're going to ask me that. They're going to pull out that deposition right on the stand. They're going to break the seal of it. They're going to hand it to me and say, Dr. Rabinow, didn't you say page 837 up instead of down? I'm going, yeah, I did. Well, then you're an idiot, right? Tell the jury that. You're no biomechanical guy. Because that's just plain stupid, isn't it? You're lying to the court, aren't you? I made a mistake. Well, why didn't you correct me? It gets worse for you guys because you don't know shit. You're owners of trampoline parks. You're just nice people. Trying to run an amusement ride and park. Amusement park and ride is what it's called. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to be good people. To do something super for the community. So imagine how easy it is for you guys to screw up. Now, after the deposition is done, there are discovery cutoff dates. When the discovery is done, both sides are done, then they file motions. One of the motions they're going to file is a motion for summary judgment. That's what your attorney's going to do. Basically asking the court, telling the court that the plaintiff hasn't made their argument. That's what they're trying to do in the Detroit case this week. I'll probably be in a hearing in 2 weeks up there. And what they're trying to say is, Rabinow didn't use any science here, and Rabinow's not a trampoline expert, which is really bizarre. And Rabinow does nothing with IATP, and Rabinow does nothing with ACSL. I'm standing here. Who do you think invited me here? You guys did. Your organization invited me here as an expert. At the same week, they're arguing I'm not an expert. It blows me away. So will they do that to you? Yeah. They'll make you look like the worst pieces of crap on the planet. They will make you look so bad and so stupid that you will not even believe it in these motions. And you got it. Then your law firm has to argue, yes, you are a good person. Yes, you did do your homework. Yes, you do train your staff. Yes, you do monitor. Yes, you do the supervision. Yes, you do all the stuff that you heard for 2 days. Absolutely you do it. And then you let the judge decide. Usually the judge will decide in most of these cases, they will deny the motion for summary judgment. Then the next motion is motion in limine, or motion to exclude, or called a doubter hearing. In other words, your expert gave a report. Now, since they have to go forward, they're going to try to get the expert out of trial. Our side is trying to get their experts out. Their side is trying to get me out. They don't even have, by the way, in this case, they don't have a gymnastics expert. Do you know why? Nobody in gymnastics would disagree with what I said. They can't find one. So you know what they do? They got a mechanical engineer, 3 mechanical engineers out of a company from here, actually California, right here. And they wrote this stupid, bogus report that he broke his neck because he landed on his head and there was too much torque on the upper side of his neck, a C5, C6, and he became a quad. Well, yada yada. We know that. It's on the video. That's why I didn't test anything. What's there to test? I know how he broke his neck. He landed on his neck and his head on a trampoline. I proved it in the paper. You got it right in front of you. I know he broke his neck. But they're arguing because I didn't test it. I shouldn't be allowed to testify. I'm speculating. They may win. I don't know. I'm not an attorney. I'm just telling you what's going to happen behind the scenes. Let me tell you this too. If you're involved in a lawsuit and you're up to this point where all this evidence has been brought in, get copies of everything from your attorney. Don't just let your attorney do it, put it in the background, and then go run your trampoline parks. Absolutely do not do that. Be an active participant in the lawsuit. If you don't, then the attorneys keep moving forward. Remember, the attorney is representing who? No. The insurer. The attorney is hired by your carrier. His or her job is not to pay out a whole lot of money for the carrier. He or she could give a rat's ding dong about you in the trampoline park. He or she is not your attorney. Understand that. And I tell this to people all the time, and they don't get it. And then by the time I'm brought in as a defense expert, I see all these depositions that were taken already by the defense attorney of the plaintiff and all this stuff and their theory and all that. I come in on the case because they can't settle it. So they call me, and they send boxes like this, and I have like 3 days to read it.
Oh, brutal.
I've done cases where I've read 40 hours straight. My wife brings up to my study coffee, a Danish. I don't even see my family for 3 days. I read it all. I write 60, 70, 100 pages of notes. Then I spend hours on the phone with the attorneys, and I say, well, why didn't you ask him this? Why didn't you ask him this? Why didn't you ask him this? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? They didn't know what they were doing. Now they're stuck 3 weeks before a trial. And they screwed up all the evidence. Because they had not a clue. They didn't hire an expert. They hired an expert too late. Now, look at the other side. What is the plaintiff doing? Plaintiff hired an expert day one, right there, the first meeting. They called him right away. I get called sometimes. By the way, this guy, I'll show you in the video, I'll show you the string trampoline thing. You know, when I gave him that information, you know what he said to me? How much do you charge? Check's coming. I could have tripled my fee right there. He's already hired. And by the way, he hasn't filed a lawsuit. But now he knows. What does he know now? He knows the place had a duty. He knows now they breached the duty because they violated the standard. He knows that's what happened because there's a video of it. And he knows the kid broke his neck. Boom! Now you got a lawsuit. And meanwhile, the defense attorney is not going to do anything. They're going to sit back and let the plaintiff do all the work, which is, by the way the system works. I've been trying to change that in this industry. I've been trying to tell carriers in here that they should retain experts like me early on, where I can be honest with them and tell them, I think you ought to settle this, or no way, let's go to trial. But they don't do that. That's not how it works. You're the ones who suffer. And the reason you do is because in the anatomy of a lawsuit, you guys sit back. Is it easier to sit back and not worry about it, get it out of your head? Yeah, sure it is. You're there to take care of your patrons. You're there to feed your family. You're there to make money as a trampoline court owner. You're there as a manufacturer, whatever it is. You have a business to run. You don't have time to worry about this. Wrong decision, folks. Believe me, it's a wrong decision. Because if the attorney who was hired by the carrier isn't doing his or her job, you're screwed. By the way, I'm doing 2 cases like that right now. They're trying to ask the court for extensions because there are other people they need to depose. And by the way, once you're deposed, it's a one-shot deal. Once an expert is deposed, you can't depose them again. You get one bite at the apple, as they say. So if there were things that were left out, you got to deal with it at trial. And if the other side knows it was left out, they ain't going to settle. They'll take them to trial. I would, wouldn't you? That's how I would win. I know I'd win because the other side didn't do their job. Now, after the depositions are done, after the discovery is done, and by the way, I'm making this really, really as short as I can. After all that is done, after the motions are done or whatever, you have a date for a trial date. They pick a jury, and they'll tell you when you're going to come and testify. Okay? The plaintiff always goes first. So the plaintiff puts on their case first. Then the defense puts their case on. Then after both cases are done, and each attorney gets a chance to cross-examine every witness all the time. And you can be on the stand for hours, you can be on that stand for days. I've been in that Cornell case that we did the study for, I was on the stand for 2 days. On just liability, right there. Duty and breach of duty, and proximate cause. That's what I did. And I had to prove liability. I was the liability expert. I had to prove that Cornell fell below the standard of care, which is basically what you're doing. They're going to have to prove you fell below the standard of care. Well, how do you show a standard of care? Where's the 2970? Here, right here. This is a standard of care. Now, here's what's interesting to you guys now, and I realized it more and more while I was here for 2 days, is this standard doesn't even apply to 2/3 of what you're now working in some of your facilities. There's nothing in here about an airbag. Or a ninja park, or walking sticks, or any of the stuff that you're doing. About towers. Matter of fact, this standard says you can't jump into a trampoline from a distance of higher than 50 inches or something. Well, you got a 9-foot platform that violates that standard. Well, you're doing it. You're putting in platforms and you're jumping into airbags. There's a lot of stuff that isn't in here. And by the way, these cases are coming up every day. I probably get called 5 or 6 times a week on cases. And I'm trying to retire. I want to keep shooting. This gets into my shooting sport. My wife and I shoot competitively. We train all the time. Talk about a sport that if you screw up, you got a problem. That's why I like doing it, because it gets me to think through quietly what I got to do when I take that AR out. When you look at the whole thing, and I'll just leave this here. When you read these questions, and you could do it, I wanted to do a lot of other stuff, but what I wanted to do is do a role play. Actually ask you those questions and you tell me the answer. And if you want to stay a little bit, we can do a few if you want. I'll tell you what, let's just do 1 or 2 of them. Give me a copy of that. Can I have that again? Let's just take the first one. All right? Let's take the first question dealing with general stuff, okay? What did they do to establish the video? First question to the owner. You got a video? Most of you have a video going out? Okay. Who made the video? Who?
The safety video.
Yeah, you got a safety video playing. Who wrote it and designed it? IATP. Oh, so you bought it from here.
Not me personally.
Right. Now IATP has a video. You can buy it and you can play it. Okay, let's say you didn't do that. What are you going to say, my cousin Vinny? And my aunt did the media on it? And then they'll ask the question, well, you have stick figures on there. Why did you use stick figures? They'll go through the whole video. I've seen some videos, by the way, that make me cringe. They are so stupid. Is the video supposed to be entertaining or educating? Educating. I've seen ducks on the video arguing with a cow. on what they're supposed to do? Oh yeah, the cows were the monitors and the ducks are the little people. I mean, I've seen stuff you're not even going to believe. And by the way, who do you think consulted IATP on the video? Me. Actually, it was Jerry Raymond from Sky High. And by the way, I represented him in 10 of 14 cases. Got him off every single one. The video prohibits double flips and back flips at Jones flip thing. Who said this is a policy? Now, you would think that would be a simple question, right? Remember, these are questions answered. You're the owners. Owner, operator, manager. So, who established that for you that you shouldn't have double flips? Did you do that? If the answer is yes, then the next question is, why? Why did you prohibit double flips? You know what this guy said? I don't have a clue. Don't have a clue. That's correct. Well, did you just intuitively think double flip should be? I don't know. I didn't care. How was the court monitors trained to enforce this policy of no back flips? How did you train your court monitors to do that? And by the way, in the standard, there's a definition of a court monitor. Did you know that? It's defined. You know who wrote that definition? Me. And now the committee put it all together, but I wrote it. And I wrote it to include one sentence that this whole industry seems to forget. Here's the sentence, and I'll read the definition. It's on page 2 of whether you have the 2015 or the 2013, and when the 2017 comes out, it's going to be the same thing. It says here's the definition of court attendant, 3.3.2. Court attendant. Individual trained in facility emergency procedures, and here's the sentence. Familiar with fundamental trampolining and TC, which is trampoline court, foam pit operations. Let me read that sentence again. Familiar with fundamental trampolining and TC foam pit operations. Which means, when you train your court monitors, you got to train them on what a trampoline is. Are you training court monitors to work at a King Soopers restaurant or grocery store? Are you training them to be a mall cop in front of a shoe store? No. You're training them to watch, observe, monitor, intervene, control a trampoline park. So, when this guy was asked that question, he says it's in the manual. Okay, let's look at the manual. You know what I found in the manual? You're not going to believe this. You will not believe this. I read the whole manual, page to page, like 180 pages. And it said great things like, treat the patron honestly, be courteous, brush your teeth, wear our shirt, all that kind of stuff. Do you know what word never showed up in the entire manual except in the title, because it's something trampoline park? I can't tell you what it is, but trampoline. 180 pages of a trampoline training manual, and the word trampoline doesn't show up. Because he took the manual from some other store like a Nordstrom's. That's what he did.